Eerie Final Destination music plays as train 575 sways forward. The train railing can be heard within the train tracks. However, train 575 wasn't in an okay position. The train shudders as it nearly derails upon the train tracks. Deep underneath the train's main core circuit breaks and snags, causing the train to leak transmissible fluid. The main core then snags into the train car wheel, in which the train car wheel slowly but surely takes in the cording of the train. Train 575 sways forward. Back in front of train 081, a small rat had just been fried by an electrical circuit connected to the train 081's railway. Train 081's railway then discharged, dislocating itself primarily because of the death of the mouse. Train 081 then started to derail. Train 081's cars then smashed into one another, derailing at first, but then slowly breaking apart. Wendy found herself holding on for dear life onto the railing as the back piece of the train 081 smashed through the train itself, causing Julie Christensen to avoid the whole entire situation. However, when Julie Christensen gets up, Wendy yells Julie's name, and a train car breaks apart, snags off of the train 081 itself, which smashes Julie Christensen off camera. However, as soon as the train 081 screeches and Kevin Fisher is slammed into the window in front of Wendy Christensen. However, Wendy Christensen throws out her hand in an attempt to save Kevin Fisher, but Kevin Fisher is immediately sucked out the window between the train car and the wall itself. The train then comes to an immediate halt, involving the derailment, and Wendy Christensen is immediately sucked out of the train via electricity propulsion. The train stops at once. Everybody on the train 081 had died immediately during the disaster. Sean Jason Blum and his friend mangled by the train derailment. Wendy Christensen wakes up with both of her legs fractured, and train 575 derails not too soon after train 081, when the cord between the cord and the train wheel gets compressed too heatedly, and the train wheel pops off, causing train 575 to derail just evenly. The train detaches immediately as a safety precaution, but the safety precaution failed. And as a result of this transaction, the train derails immediately. Cord Stanley and Dina Carpets are immediately smashed between the train and the train cars. Mason Cook and Sidney Tracy are smashed by the ceiling of revolving a cave-in. When the train flips to the side and demolishes the wall on the side of the train railway. Jamie Jameson is then smashed by the ceiling of the tunnel, along with Thomas Parker. Parker Hallows and Rachel Hunter immediately join hands before the train could dismercifully detach once again. Both of them are sucked backwards opposite directions. Parker entered through the glass window and mangled alongside the train. Rachel, however, is sucked backwards and busted against the wall. Linda Carter is smashed alongside a pole and then impaled by a falling piece of attire from within the train. Karina and Steve immediately notice the situation, and Steve stares in automatic horror as Troy saves Steve's heart from an impending death. A boulder block smashes through the window and immediately kills Karina Silver. Troy when Greg stops and halts in an unbelieving breath. Susie then saves Greg Harding just for the train top to capsize and topple. The train has immediately capsized and flipped over upside down. At this time, George is immediately killed and mangled within the train itself, along with Susie and Emil and Greg Harding. And at this point in the process, Parker Hallows is immediately sucked backwards and slammed directly through the wall and lands somehow next to Wendy Christensen, in which he puts his hand on Wendy Christensen's back. Troy Harding, who is just having been mangled by the train itself, was thrown airborne through the wall into the train 081 section. However, another train was headed their way. Another train, also known as train 5871, was headed toward Wendy Christensen. Wendy Christensen somehow manages to push the mail, which just happened to be Parker Hallows, out of the way. However, the train conductor that was inside the train 5801, and the unruly public civilian notices that Wendy Christensen was about to be run over by a train. However, the civilian next to the train conductor decides to push the train forward and instead of letting the train stop. Wendy Christensen screams for her life as the train runs her over on screen. A piece of train attire flips into Parker Hallows' face and impales him between the train and the wall while he's being grinded. And as Troy Harding looks up with his connected Wendy Christensen fractured leg, he looks up and screams as train 5801 slowly but surely comes forward and before it runs him over, Troy Harding flips to reality.